All right. Okay. I know I usually defer to you guys on the topic on class and session. Um, and in class and session, I am sometimes a professor, but I'm always a student. I might be a little bit more of a professor today.
That's fine.
I might be because your president, my president,
Uh-huh.
our president is coming after me personally. I know you don't believe me. Donald J. Trump is challenging me. What do I do?
How so?
You know the beautiful thing about Donald Trump being president?
What is that?
He has removed all of this political media stuff,
Uh-huh.
where if you say something, the immediate dismissal, even if the person doesn't know what you're talking about, then this is Democrat or Republican. Oh, you must have got that from Fox, or you must have got that from CNN, or you must have got that from Associated Press, or you must have
Uh-huh.
got that from, because everybody has a spin. Now, Donald Trump, you can go to the White House press page, bro. Here we go, right here. This is his page. And he said, I am coming after Dr. Darnell Bolton. That's what he said on there.
Specifically.
That's what it says.
That's what it is.
That's what it is. That's what I'm reading. Maybe I'm reading something wrong.
Okay.
Fact sheet. President Donald J. Trump restores truth and sanity to American history. Now, the last time I checked, I am an American historian, no?
Yes, you are.
So he coming after me.
That's the rationale.
Anything else, he telling me that ain't your business. My tariffs, that's not your business.
Right.
The immigrants, you're not an immigrant, that's not your business.
Right.
I can feel the way I want to feel on race. That's not your business.
Right.
But he's talking about American history.
The historical piece.
That's what I do.
That's your business.
When I go to work, that's what I do, right? And I have to
Yes.
come up with new and inventive and meaningful ways for this to be pertinent and valuable in our society. Well, I know now who is over education for the country?
Well, before it was the Department of Education,
Yes.
but that,
And
that
who is
that's
who's
that's
the, who that's who?
that's been compromised.
But who's the director of that?
Currently,
Hmm?
we are Linda. Is it Linda McMahon?
Right,
Yes.
right.
Yeah. Yes.
Um, and her professional background. She's
Mm-hmm.
76 years old. She's a politician, an actress, and a television producer. Um, I have no education background for her.
No.
I'm trying to find some.
I think she did a little stint. I can't remember. I think it was in Pennsylvania. I could be mistaken. She had
She has a BA,
right
a bachelor's degree
a bachelor's degree. Yes.
from
Yes.
East Carolina University.
Uh-huh.
Now, I love bachelor's degrees. Okay.
Right.
And I don't believe that if you are a genius
Mm-hmm.
or you are smart enough that you don't need a degree, that a degree necessarily requires you to be able to do certain things
Right.
or not. But if you're functioning within the scope of education,
Yes.
that's generally reflective of your knowledge and ability to navigate in that area, that I have an elevated level of experience in education.
True.
So we have someone who is great at their job. They have a lot of money. But that doesn't mean that they can function on college campuses. So the person who is over this and Donald Trump between them have no advanced degrees.
Uh-huh.
And this is what they're doing. This is per the White House page. So all of my non-racist whites, all of my non-racist conservatives, all of my good-meaning MAGA people. This is coming from the White House. This is not me tripping.
At the top. Right.
This is his page. Today, President Donald J. Trump signed an executive order restoring truth and sanity to American history by revitalizing key cultural institutions and reversing the spread of divisive ideology. Okay. I am not just a historian. I'm an American historian.
Right.
Okay. I have a master's degree in history, American history. I have a PhD in American history. So, as a person who has dedicated significant time to particularly this topic, I have questions and concerns.
Of course.
And the people who are at the top of this have no reflection in their qualifications, though they are successful people with a lot of money. Apples and bowling balls. What do you know about American history? That's the question, right?
That's the question. And her major was what?
I have to look. Let me see.
I don't believe it was history, if I'm not mistaken.
There is no time on her Marine Corps, stationed in Cherry Point, Roman Catholic. I'm looking to see, okay, she was born in North Carolina. I'm looking for where in her military school. Okay, and she enrolled at East Carolina University in 1966, where she obtained a bachelor's degree in French. Okay, yeah, alrighty then.
But no historical.
Hey, French, bro. French. French.
Yeah, right.
Parlez-vous?
Oui.
Français. All right.
Yes.
Okay. Donald J. He didn't even give himself a doctorate. He owned a college.
Yes. At one point in time.
Yeah. Now, let's just, as I teach my students, before we go past them, let's just go. We're revitalizing key cultural institutions and reversing the spread of diversive ideology. So if you're reversing something, that means it was put in there. And he's restoring truth and sanity. So at what point in American history was truth and sanity in American history? That's the first question that we have to ask. And that's the question that I've heard no MAGA person answer.
No.
Make America great again. Please tell me exactly which year.
Yeah. At what point? And for who?
No, 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 no.
Not
You
for
just
who?
tell me the year and we move forward from that point. Because because you said America, and
Right.
America has never been one group of people.
No, never been.
So we can't say for who, we can't say
Right.
no. If you say make America, we can't. America encompasses who it encompasses.
It's a general understanding. That's everybody.
So no, it's an articulated fact by way of its governing documents.
Right.
So there's nowhere to hide when we're talking about very specific Black letter law. All right. So when is this time that we're going back to, just like the entire mega thing that's never answered? But let's move forward. Donald Trump aims to ensure that the Smithsonian is an institution that sparks children's imagination, celebrates American history and ingenuity, serves as a symbol to the world of American greatness, and makes America proud. So everything in there should make every American proud. If
That's
we're
what.
talking about, if we talk about the Civil War, somebody lost.
Right.
So everything we're talking about, so are we talking about that now we're going back to everybody gets a trophy? There were no losers and winners in the Civil War. There was no winners and losers in uh, uh, the civil rights uh, history. There's no winners and losers in women's history. There's no winners and losers in the Trail of Tears and American Genocide and Black Wall Street, in Japanese internment camps. How do I teach this that serves as a symbol of American greatness
Mm-hmm.
and makes America proud?
Right.
Everybody.
I don't know if I know you are very attentive to what is being espoused by a lot of people, especially and particularly on the right. Um, have
No,
you
I'm
heard?
no. I'm equally sickened by people on the left. Let's
Okay,
just make
okay,
it
well,
clear. I have equal opportunity, just like for all politicians.
okay. So, well, I'm specifically saying what I'm saying because I've heard a lot of people on the right espouse this new concept of quote unquote this new golden age of America. And when I think of this new golden age of America, of course, I have to go back to the past golden ages that America thought was golden. Uh, One was during Western expansion, where we had the ideology of expanding territories from the Atlantic to the Pacific, to the Pacific. And all lanes in between would be, of course, the United States. And it didn't matter how the job got done, per se. Um, another period of time that comes to mind is probably during the late 1800s, uh, during the height of, or similar to the height of the industrial age.
That's
And
also Plessy versus Ferguson
exactly
and
right.
the rise of the Klan
Yeah,
with Birth of a Nation, Woodrow
right.
Wilson,
Yes.
also Garveyism,
Yes.
and NAACP.
Yes. So when I look at these supposedly golden ages, and I don't know, are you familiar? Have you heard that lately? But a lot of people have gotten the news lately and are noting these golden ages. This is a new golden age of America. And I'm like, okay, well, what are you comparing it to? What are you comparing it with? Are you comparing it with the old golden ages that we supposedly had? And I think about what was happening in the country during those times. and none of that I would be necessarily considered to be golden, or I would consider to be an age to where it was an age of greatness for everybody in the country.
We don't there's not a period of this in this country that it was great for most people.
Exactly.
So right. This is the ideology, and okay, and this is something that I've never done, but I have to, because I can't find MAGA people to talk to me. I can't. Okay. I need conservative people. I need MAGA people. I need Trump supporters. I need you. I love your comments. I love your comments, but this is generally what happens. They call me names, and I answer with historical context.
Right.
And then the conversation ends.
Right.
I don't bite. This is not the channel that I'm going right. to, name call and right. If that's what you're into, you're not going to get that here. No matter how right. many times you call me, whatever, or question my intelligence or my education or whatever, I don't battle with my credentials. My credentials are what they are. But I want people who are interested in defending this ideology as non-racial, non-divisive, mm-hmm. inclusive. How is this anything other than hateful white people? The guy who just went off on Jason Whitlock. Now everybody,
Nick Fuentes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now he is, at the same time he's saying, I'm not trying to be racist. He's saying
racist stuff.
Horribly racist stuff. And he's also saying they're hiring you as a Black person to say what they want to say.
Yes.
So he's admitting they're hiring you. You're our token, so you can say what we want said.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we feel. And I am angry that you can say it and I can't. He hasn't even touched. Why do I want to say that?
Right.
And that's a horrible thing to say.
That is a very horrible thing to say. Or things to say.
And everybody is talking about, oh, look, he told Jason Whitlock off. Or, oh, Jason Whitlock is getting his. But we're having a breaking of rank. He's saying, I don't have no money. I don't have no show. I don't have the popularity I used to have apparently at one point.
Right.
And I am mad.
Exactly right.
How is this any different from that cry by white Americans saying, I don't want to hear it. I'm jealous of any Black progression. And I don't want my kids to know what their grandparents did. I don't want to hear it. If so, then you can have that opinion if you are not a history professor.
Right.
How can I teach this country's history and make the country look good? Because that is a daily quandary of a university professor.
Right.
Because you don't want to seem anti-patriotic. You definitely don't want to seem anti-America. If you're not, because most people who are American historians love America. That's why they spend so much time with it.
Right.
What I have to go ahead.
And I don't think that that's necessarily just a a professor's experience. I mean, I experienced the same thing even in middle school and even in high school in particular, because you have kids who have been taught so much about the American spirit and being patriotic and having programs and plays, this, that, and the third. And then you get to me, and I'm not necessarily questioning the patriotism as opposed to painting the patriotism from the views of a lot of people who may have been disenfranchised, but want to be seriously, sincerely want to be included in this whole melting pot of patriotism and this American spirit. So, and it's funny because in Dr. Stevens, we alluded to this in shows past about kids getting to a certain point in time and age to where they begin to really, really define themselves, or they see themselves, or they want to see themselves as being a part of the community or society. But then you get a lot of contradiction between what is in the textbooks as opposed to what is real and what they're experiencing. And that happens.
But I think we're going on a more we're going from history to sociology. What happens in society when this information is touched, and how people see it and what is done with it? That's not what I do.
But my question is, does one shape the other?
Hmm. Hmm. Does one shape the other?
Yes.
That's sociology. And that's not what this is talking about.
Okay.
That's exactly the point.
Are you referring to just the whole reframing of?
I'm saying,
okay.
Yeah, I'm saying I am an expert in this. And you are directing the vice president, who is a member of the Smithsonian Board of Regents, to work to eliminate improper, divisive, and anti-American ideology from the Smithsonian and its museums, education, and research centers, and National Zoo. Now,
yes,
who determines? Because we're not talking about what people want to see, how it makes them feel. That's sociology. We're talking the body,
the factual
of research and production.
Yes.
Who decides what is improper? Who decides what is divisive? Who decides what is anti-American? Because anti-American changes. Harriet Tubman was considered a criminal in her day.
Yes.
Frederick Douglass was considered a criminal in his day.
Yes.
If you go under the Daughters of the Confederacy, what Abraham Lincoln did by elevating the executive power was anti-American. It was antithetical to the Constitution. Who is making this decision, and why is this birthing from people with no history expertise? I'm not trying to go outside of that framework right now. The order directs the administration to work with Congress to ensure that future Smithsonian appropriations prohibit funding for exhibits and programs that degrade shared American values. Divide Americans by race, or promote ideologies inconsistent with federal law. Okay, what federal laws? Celebrate women's achievement in American histories, Women's History Museum, and do not recognize men as women. All right. How can you tell the story of slavery black codes, convict leasing? How
Mm-hmm.
can you tell the story of the Supreme Court, Dred Scott, um, uh, Plessy versus Ferguson, Brown
Mm-hmm.
versus Board?
Compromise 1850.
Uh, yes, yeah.
All that.
The Kansas Nebraska
Kansas,
compromise,
Nebraska. Right.
Missouri compromise.
Right.
How do you do 13th Amendment?
Yes.
How do you do any of that without talking about race? How do you tell the story of
And
Andrew Jackson? How do you tell the Trail of Tears without talking about race? Those things happen because of, how do you tell the story of Pocahontas? How do you tell the
right.
story of the colonies forming
Right.
and how tobacco got to be the
Mm-hmm.
marketable product that it was?
Right.
How do you tell any of these things? How do you tell Bacon's Rebellion
Right.
without talking about race? So now, when we begin to discriminate, now we're talking about agendas and perspective. Notice right now, I'm not hitting the hot button talking about kids.
No.
I'm talking about how does what you're saying really happen? Because
And,
there's more to this, because it starts off talking about um, it starts off talking about the Smithsonian. It said the order directs the Secretary of the Interior to restore forest parks, monuments, statues, markers that were improperly removed within the last 5 years to perpetuate a false revision of history. Now, that I actually agree with. You know what? Put it back. That's part of our history. Don't remove what the Democrats did.
yes.
If you want to tell the story, I don't think you should
Remove
I
anything.
don't think you don't remove anything.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you feel that it imbalances the story or misrepresents, put Harriet Tubman right next to General Lee.
Right. Right.
Put, and say, okay, hey, this is what she did, this is what he did, y'all figure it out.
And I had the same mindset. So my thing is, if all the symbols, the symbolic uh, references of the people, if you take them away, then you're also taking away from how we got here. And I don't care how we necessarily got here per se, as opposed to how we got here, but where do we want to go? And it's hard to determine where you want to go if you don't understand how we got here. And so removing statues, paintings, historical sites, I don't care what happened per se.
So I don't want to be so, I don't want to be pointing out, I don't want to come across as that I'm so anti trust in this particular legislation or this particular policy that
right.
I can't identify what's good about it. I don't think that you should censor anything because, number one, that tells you about the community you're in
which you live. Yes.
So if I come to a place and they have all these flags, and the flag that actually was fighting for the end of America, fighting against America, um, I need to know as an American where I am.
Yes.
But check this out, it goes further. That the president will work with congressional leaders to appoint members to the Smithsonian Board who are committed to advancing the celebration of America's extraordinary heritage and progress. No, this is saying white people. I'm saying let's just keep it a stat.
Keep it what
and
it is.
If you're not saying white people, why not? But let's keep going.
Right.
The order also directs the Secretary of the Interior to restore federal parks, monuments. Okay, I already read that. In preparation for the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, the order directs them to complete the restoration improvements by Independence Day. In in the last decade, we have witnessed concerted effort to rewrite American history and force our nation to adopt a factually baseless ideology aimed at diminishing American achievement. President Trump is okay. What? The prior achievements push divisive ideology that reconstrued America's promotion of liberty as fundamentally flawed, infecting reverted institutions like the Smithsonian. What divisive ideology misconstrued the promotion of liberty? The fact is, our country was formed about white freedom while they were enslaving Black people, murdering Native Americans, and regulating poor people to minimal citizenship and women to partial citizenship. So notice they use the word liberty and not equality.
Equality, right.
Not freedom.
Right.
So uneducated people, that's going to go past.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody that this is what they do, because most people think, well, liberty, freedom, equality, those are synonyms. No, they're not. Liberty is your feeling of belongingness.
Right.
That's really what liberty is. Equality is having the same degree of opportunity as the next person, minus talents and access, but you have the same opportunity. Okay. Freedom is the extent to which you can access all of these things.
Right.
Those are three very different things that are misused by non-professionals of the area, which I'm a professional of this area. So this is far more problematic than a lot of Americans are given this credit for.
And hence, while a lot of people don't want to use the word equity as opposed to equality, which has been a hot button, word. Because how do you define equity without how do you define equality without addressing equity?
Well, again, why do you have a problem with equity? Why do you have a problem with inclusion? Right. Why do you have a problem with diversity if you are in a diverse nation that everyone is equal and everyone is included?
Yes.
That makes no sense.
No.
This says nothing. It's talking about the Smithsonian, but where is this going to go? Donald Trump is committed to honoring America's extraordinary heritage by building a sense of national pride. How?
Yeah, how does that? Yeah, how does it happen?
The order also protects American monuments from vandalism. He signed a memorandum ensuring federal buildings to reflect the timeless grandeur of traditional. Now, the buildings, the only Smithsonian building in DC that's not white is the Black History Building.
Right.
Now, this is, and we got, oh my God, we got 2.5 minutes. My issue is this loose, broad language that shows cowardice.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that this is saying is facts are less important than feelings. Image is more important than truth.
Yes.
be it my books, be it my lectures, be it whatever it is. Let's not name call. If you
Right.
got a problem with something I said, point it out to me, book, chapter, and verse.
Mhm.
Show me the research that disproves what I said. If you can't do that,
And
we have to take this as fact until something else supersedes it. That's how academia works. When you're talking about American history,
but
that is academia.
but
We got
hadn't
we got we got 1 minute left. I'm letting you close it out.
but hadn't it always been the mode of, despite the era of time in which we've lived? I mean, that for me as a history teacher, I think that's always been there. I think we've tried to books have tried to incorporate some form of inclusion or whatever the case may be, but the overriding understanding is that um, folks have always been excluded. Folks have always been excluded.
I think there
Having
has
access,
been, I think
having
there's,
access to a lot of things.
I think there has been, we have under a minute now. I think there has been recently a much more, a greater focus on research and scholarship.
Mhm.
There has been a move toward feelings, taking down certain things that reflect a poor image of America, which was slavery, which was racism, which